Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Nightmare Press podcast. Today, I am here with uh, Sarah Page. She is the China lookalike, official China lookalike professional bodybuilder, and I just thank her for coming on, taking time out of her day to show up. So, how you doing, Sarah?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good. After all the technical difficulties of trying to get on, I'm finally glad I made it.
One
um,
day technology.
yeah, that's true. That's always fun. And plus, it's not my network, so like when stuff goes on, I'm not real good with programming, so I'm just like, what do I do? So like I messaged them, they didn't get back to me, so I just turned off the computer and started it again, and suddenly it worked. So that works. Um, so I guess I want to start off with I was always a big fan of China when I was young. So I used to watch wrestling a lot, and she was one of my favorites. So apparently, she was one of yours as well. So what
Yeah.
what got you into doing the China? Because you look almost just like her. I mean, so what got you into doing that?
So I've been into cosplay for about 10 years. I got into watching wrestling in 2015, and my
Mhm.
best friend was like, "You need to cosplay China. You look like her." I was like, "What?" And then I looked into it. I was like, "Oh my god, she's incredible!" And I
Mhm.
was like, "I can't cosplay her. Like, I'm nowhere big enough. Like, I was tiny back then." Um, and I started lifting weights, getting a little bit bigger, and in God, 2022, I went to a Comic Con and I was like, I could maybe pull this off. I was nowhere near the size I am now. Um, and I did it, and someone took a 7-second video and it went viral. I was like, oh my God. And then from that point, I've cosplayed China.
So it worked out pretty well. So what got you into wrestling? So you started liking it about 10 years ago. It's fairly recent, I guess. So
So it was actually, I started watching it with my ex-husband. He was into wrestling, so I started watching it. I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." So like, it's when Goldberg was back, Undertaker was there, Chris Jericho was still in WWE. Like, that's when got into it.
so the bodybuilding was first, right?
No, but I've lifted weights since 2019, and then I stepped into my gym and I was like, I want to compete in bodybuilding. And that was again, I think in 2023, I
Uh,
believe.
so you're still relatively new. So it's kind of like it all kind of just like happened all at once, right? So it's like you kind of got into wrestling, thought that was cool, and then someone was like, "You look like China," and so you started lifting weights more to look like. So that was kind of just like all like one thing right after the other.
Yeah, it kind of snowballed.
Yeah. So so did you do a whole lot of research on the stuff China had done before, and when you started doing
when
it?
when I first like started looking into China, I was like watching her matches. I was like, oh my god, she's amazing, and I was like, I just wanted to look like her. I was like that. She just looked incredible, like this Amazonian woman. I was like, I want to look like that.
Yeah, there definitely weren't any women like her before. I think I remembered in the early '90s there was a woman named Terry Power who was in wrestling, and she was fairly big for back then. She was pretty big compared to a lot of other women. But then I saw China several years later, and I was like, wow, she's way bigger. And it's funny they actually brought that Terry Power lady into WWF but she was a lot smaller by then. But yeah, I know my wife. She's always been a fan of China. She has like a doll of her and all that. So she was like, when she was like, "Oh, this lady, she's a China official China lookalike." Yeah, I was like, cool. So, what's some of the stuff that you've liked about watching wrestling so far? I know you've met some wrestlers too. I've seen pictures of you with Jericho.
It's something you can escape into. You get so involved with the storylines and you start loving and hating these people. Like, you get so involved in it. And I call it like performance sport because people are like, oh, what is wrestling? I was like, it's like sport, but it's performance acting.
Yeah, it's like a performance art. I think of it as it's like it's not really it's not even though they're incredibly athletically gifted, it's not necessarily a sport because I guess a sport is like when there's like the competition, they're trying to beat each other, which that's all scripted, right? So it's like
Yeah.
then and but they have to get in there and make it look good, and they come up with this stuff as they
There's
go.
still athletes. Like, it's insane
That's
what some of them do. Like, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and it's still like to me, and in some ways, it seems like it would be harder. I wouldn't know because I've never been a professional wrestler, and the only time I've ever played sports was just for fun, so I was never on any kind of real level of that. But it seems to me like it would be more difficult to be a professional wrestler and actually make something look good than actually just try to win. So have you done any training in wrestling or ever thought about trying to?
So I've bobbed in and out of training because I'm competing with bodybuilding. When I get really lean, it's completely unsafe for me to go throw myself in the ring and all that kind of stuff because injury, you've got like no body fat to protect yourself. So I've kind of bobbed in and out of training where I can because I do want to do it, but competing kind of is up there for me.
Yeah, yeah. So the bodybuilding, the professional bodybuilding. Tell us a little bit about that. Like what goes into that? What do you do? What drew you to that?
I've always kind of been interested in bodybuilding. So like I used to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger growing up. Like I'm like this
Yeah.
is just something I've had a draw to. But I finally got the courage to kind of pursue it myself. It's an extreme sport. It's probably the most extreme sport you can get into. Like your whole life is dedicated to daily in the gym, and it's not only the gym. That's the easy part. It's the eating that comes with it. So when you're in show prep, your cardio increases, you're more and more tired, your carbs get lower, and you were basically trying to hold on to as much muscle as you built as possible while stripping the body fat back. If you're not mentally like strong, you won't be able to do it. It is hard. You go through periods you are miserable, you're craving everything. Like my thing's chocolate. The cravings are insane. You go to bed hungry. It's hard.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people may or may not realize that bodybuilding is not just lifting weights. Like anybody who's in decent can go in and start lifting weights, right? But you got to trim yourself down and get all the fat and get the tone going on. And I had a family member who was really interested in bodybuilding, and she never really got into it, but she watched a lot of it. And I remember watching the Mr. and Mrs. Olympias and stuff, and seeing. Well, it started out, it was like Rachel McLish. Do you remember that name?
Yeah, I've heard of the name. Yeah.
She struck me as more of a fitness model. She wasn't real big. Then you got like Linda Miles and Bev Francis. Are you familiar with either of them?
No.
Yeah, they were from way back in the day. They were really big, and I saw these women. Of course, the men too, like Schwarzenegger and Lee Haney and Dorian Yates. And this is like they're just so cut, and I'm like, God, these guys are massive. Because I was used to watching wrestling and just see the massive wrestlers, right? But like these guys are like super cut, and I'm like, man, what is it? What goes into that? So it's interesting to talk to someone who's participated in that.
I tell people you look your best when you feel your worst because you feel like crap. You were tired beyond belief. You like it's insane, but at the end of the day, I want to compete. I love it. The minute I get on stage, I'm like, I just love it. Like you put your routines to get you have a 60-second routine. I like putting that together, and it's just incredible. Like the minute I stepped on stage the first time, I loved it. I was like, this is what I want to do, and I have to keep reminding myself of that when I'm in prep because I'm like, I just want chocolate. And we've just had Easter. I'm like, I can't have Easter eggs.
Yeah, so yeah, it's probably really hard around Easter time, I imagine.
Yeah.
When the competition's over, do you have like a blowout day where you're like, all right, I don't have to work so hard right now. I'm gonna eat something good.
So like when you step off stage, we generally go for like a burger or something, and I'll have some
Yeah,
chocolate, and then I'll have like the next day like a normal meal, and then if I'm competing again, it's straight back on to what I'm doing. So like my meal plan, all the cardio, it's intense.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't do it. I mean, I'm overweight. There's no way I could do it. And I'm pretty impressed with people who can. Like, I mean, it's like you mentioned the 60-second routine. So like, I guess that really can you get creative with that? I've seen what they do, and they do a lot of different poses and stuff. Do you sit there and like have to really think about that? Is that like something you have to mentally prepare to do, or is it just kind of come
Yeah,
up?
I spend sort of weeks trying to put. I'll choose a song, and it's generally a song that means something to me, like the lyrics, whatever. and it's kind of you have to have your poses in there, but it's kind of pose flow, so you have to kind of flow into it. So I make it a little bit kind of dancey, kind of not, but you flow into your poses. It's basically showing off what you built.
It's probably really satisfying too after going through all that you went through to make yourself look that way, to finally get up there to showcase it and to have people appreciate it, because
Yeah.
the amount of work is insane. And yeah, you want to be recognized for what you did. So I guess I would think that too, that really trains you mentally. Like you probably like to have such discipline to do that for yourself. It's almost like the discipline of martial arts training, only it's two totally different things. But I would think the mindset would have to be somewhat the same. Like you really have to focus and be disciplined and not stray from the course. Do you find that helps you mentally with a lot of things?
If I hyper focus on something, I'm quite stubborn. So I'm like, I'm doing it. I want that. That's always how I've been. It just seems to be a hyper focus for me. I tend to do that with stuff.
So I was going to ask. Hyperfixation seems almost like it would be necessary to do for doing what you do. I was going to ask that actually. You said you're always like that. I was going to say, do you find that that's a? I guess that was a quality you had prior to doing this, and did it just like really ramp up the more you did this? And
Yeah, pretty much. So like, I just became like my goal with the bodybuilding. I want to get to Olympia, like dream big, right? So
right, that's it.
to
That's the dream.
compete in that level, you have to live like a pro. So you have to prioritize your gym and your training and your nutrition first. I've lost friendships through that. I've lost relationships through that. I'm like, do you know what? If you can't support me, go somewhere else, because this is my
Exactly.
dream. I'm
Yeah.
quite stubborn.
Well, no, you have to be that way. If you have, successful people surround themselves with people who support their dreams. You got to have like-minded people, or at least people who are like, yeah, you got to go do that. So, yeah, you got to cut loose people who aren't going to be helpful. At least they don't necessarily have to be helping you towards it, but they can't be preventing you from it.
Yeah, you
And
need
it's
someone supportive, especially when you're in prep. You need that support. Luckily, my best friend, she is like, she's the most amazing, incredible person, and she is my support. And if I'm having a down day, I'll get her talking to, and she
yeah.
hypes me up. I couldn't do it without her. Like, she's an incredible human being.
When you're just like, I want to give this up and eat a chocolate bunny, she's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's always good. Like I think a lot of people struggle with worrying about how they're going to affect the people that are in their life. But I'm just kind of like, well, if you're really oriented towards something, you're goal oriented, and you want to do it, then those people need to be more worried about how they're going to affect your goals. And if they're not on board, too many people, you can't just like let everybody in. You got to let people who are on the same page in, right?
Yeah, that's why I keep my circle quite small now. I've learned not everyone's on your side. They just want to be around you for something. The people that are actually on your side are the ones that push you, help you when you're struggling mentally, and believe me, you do in prep.
Yeah, yeah. You don't really need just fair weather friends, right? People who
No.
are good times only friends is what they call them now, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're okay to have around when you're having fair weather, but when you're having it rough, the people who really matter are the ones who are there, and that circle is always smaller when you.
Yeah, definitely. It's very small. It's very hard to find people that support you and you support them, and they don't want nothing from you. They just want to see you win. Like,
Yeah,
that's rare.
yeah, it really is. That's the people who you truly have. Some people feel like they need to have more people. I say it's not about quantity; it's about quality. It's
100%.
You can get more done with one or two good people in your life than 10 or 12 people who are just kind of hanging out.
100%. Yeah.
So you mentioned you always liked cosplaying. So before China, what what was some of the cosplay you liked?
So I actually started with Harlequin, which is a typical one, but I did the classic version with the jester hat and everything.
Yeah.
I've done Disney princesses, I've done Edward Scissorhands, I've done Mrs.
Oh,
Lovett.
cool.
Like, I've gone through like so many cosplays. I've done Marvel characters like Elektra, X-23, which is like the female Wolverine. Like,
Mhm.
I've done no end. Like, I've been doing it 10 years, so it's insane.
Yeah, so you kind of like a wide variety of stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm just a
Yeah,
nerd, really.
yeah. No wonder, no wonder. You would definitely get along with my wife. She's all into the Disney princesses, the Marvel stuff. She's into the Marvel stuff more than I am, and it's like she just really
I love it.
he likes all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. Um, so like, is it just? I guess that kind of goes along with like they're not the same, but they are. Like the cosplaying, you put together an outfit, right? So you work really hard on that, and you kind of
Yeah,
go out and you can have a routine and you pose, and then that kind of translates over to the bodybuilding. Even though I feel like making a making an outfit would be pretty difficult, a costume, but I feel like bodybuilding would be even more difficult than that. But
I suppose it does relate in a way because, like, when you cosplay, because I had in my 20s, I had eating disorder. Like, I was so scared of talking to people. I was really anxious. Like, I had depression, and you can kind of escape into this character and be confident because you're in this character. It's really weird, but you find in cosplay a lot of people have various issues, and that's their escapism. So I suppose in the bodybuilding, in a way, you're putting on this character when you go on stage as well.
yeah, I can understand definitely having the anxiety about talking to people and all that. I have that too. I still struggle even after doing all this, still talking to people. And it's I guess it's good. A lot of people, I don't know. I feel like it's good if you can find something to escape into. Of course, for like me, I do a lot of writing, so that's what I do, and I could see like that's not the same. Like, but with going out and doing the costume stuff, that can really help you like around people. Like, and I think like it's kind of like how people wear their sunglasses. They don't want to talk, but like doing the it's also a creativity thing. Like when you put together these outfits and think, hey, I want to be this character. So again, it's a really creatively driven thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think that's pretty awesome that you do that. So who is your favorite Disney princess?
Um, I think my favourite was uh, well, there was two really. I like doing Ariel because I had the big pink dress. Like, it
Yeah.
was huge. It was mental. And I really like doing Princess Jasmine. I made that entire costume myself, so I was
Oh
really
wow.
proud of that. Which that's the one that kicked off lifting weights because I was like, oh, I want abs for this costume because it's like a tiny little top and
Yeah,
these big harem pants. I was like, I want abs. So that's what kind of kicked the fitness stuff off.
that's cool. Yeah, it sounds like just all that kind of rolled into one. That's pretty interesting how such one like you said the snowball effect how one thing really just opened up your creative drive and you're driven to do all these things, which I think is pretty awesome. Um, Marvel characters. Who's your favorite there?
I really like Thor, to be honest, because it's
Thor.
the whole God theme of that. Like, I really like that.
So I
I'd
see
say Thor.
it's like an emerging pattern. You really like the powerful characters. You like Chyna, you like Jasmine because she was really, headstrong, and Thor. So you
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern there.
yeah, it is, and then you do the bodybuilding. So I mean, like, I think that's great that you really found like your niche of things that you like to do. It's kind of like all that just like a puzzle fell into place. And has there ever been any other kind of cosplay characters you'd like to do?
I do want to do Xena Warrior Princess, but that's a lot of leather work, and I have not got the time in a minute. And I want to get it accurate. Because I've got this perfectionist trait. I've always had it, and I want to do things as best as I possibly can. So to make that, it's going to take a lot of time, and I do not have the
Yeah,
time at the minute.
yeah,
And probably female Thor, because that's another badass character that I could
yeah.
probably pull off.
Yeah, when you said you did cosplay, and I asked you that question, I really expected to hear Xena's name come up at some point because you definitely have that pattern. You got the look too. You got the hair and everything. It kind of
Yeah,
goes along with the China.
everyone keeps telling me I need to do it, and I'm like, I will at some point. It's just a lot of leather work.
And you're going to have to learn how to do her war cry too. That's,
Right.
She was well known for that. I always liked Xena. I always kind of found Xena to be a more entertaining show than Hercules. You
Yeah.
know, Hercules just, I don't know, the fights weren't as cool. He just kind of posed a lot. But like Xena, she was like flying all over the place, hitting people with swords, beating up like 5 dudes at once. It's always pretty neat. But so a little bit about you. You mentioned earlier before we came on. I asked you about the ghost walk stuff you've been involved with. Is the whole paranormal thing something you're really interested in?
Yeah, I love all paranormal stuff, but I used to work Derby Ghost Tours with Richard Felix from Most Haunted. So he kind of there's this old Derby jail. It's the last place in the UK that someone was hanged, and this jail is like as it was, like the old doors and everything, the condemned cell, the drop room, all that, which was really cool to work in. And my God, I've had some experiences in there when I've been on my own. So I believe there's something there because I could not explain what happened, but we used to do like the jump scares on the tour. So like
Yeah.
they'd put everyone in the condemned cell. So you're in this hooded thing and there's like a little bed thing. So I'm under this bed. And the best one ever, this girl's like, I'm gonna sit on the bed because no one can get me. I thought, oh, you've messed up here. And I'm under this bed. And he shuts them in there and he says, you need to contemplate that this would be your last night on earth and what it would feel like. Shuts them in this dark room. You sat there. And there's chains, so you start slowly dragging the chains, and they start freaking out. And this girl sat on the bed. She's like, they can't get me. I went bang on the top of the bed. She shot across the room. I'm trying not to laugh my head off. It was the most funniest thing ever.
Yeah, but that was great. Yeah, that's have you ever considered like kind of a sidetrack here? Have you ever thought of like doing haunted house things when you have spare time? Because you'd probably be good at that. You like doing the characters and stuff. You could probably really freak some people out if you came up with the right characters.
I mean, there's not really like there's loads in America. There's not really any close to where I live here. I'd love to do that because it'd be fun as hell.
So they don't really have that kind of thing much over there where you're at.
No, it's more like the big cities and stuff. So you really have to travel quite far to do it, and
Um,
they don't pay really well, to be honest. Like
no,
I could greatly improve some of them because they're shocking. Like I've been to a couple of like they do Alton Towers, which is a theme park that's a scare fest. It's shocking. Like I'm like, this isn't scary.
yeah, they don't. A lot of them over here, they do. They have a ton over here in America. Like, and it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be in like a big city. You can go to just like some small town. They got one out here that's just out in a field. So I mean, like they look for any reason to put a haunted house somewhere, but they don't. To my knowledge, I've gone to them, but I've never worked for one. Now, actually, my wife, she worked for one for a while. But I know a lot of them. They don't really pay. They kind of just do volunteers, or they pay very little. So
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
it's like something to do if you're bored and you like kind of want to make some to say I did it. Now I know some people they run this haunted house out here. Of course, out here where we live in Louisville, so you've probably heard of Waverly. Then if you're into the whole paranormal,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've been there, and they do a haunted house, but their haunted house is very commercial themed. It's got like Jason, Freddy, Michael, and all that. But they have a lot of workers there. But of course, going there and doing the overnight, the paranormal is pretty interesting. So like you said you've had some experiences, right? Like
Yeah.
when it comes to the paranormal, what is your prevailing opinion on ghosts and spirits and such?
So the best way to explain it for me is basically how Richard Felix explained it. Your energy can't die. Energy cannot die.
Right.
So it's got to go somewhere, right? He explained about the stone tape theory. So there's silica in bricks. So like when you see this old person walking through a building, it's like the buildings were playing a memory. So the buildings may be changed, but it hasn't to them. So you see them walking through walls and stuff. I found that quite an interesting theory.
So that kind of sounds like that. I don't want to say it's 100% like parapsychology, but it kind of leans that way where they they believe mostly in a nutshell that hauntings, paranormal experiences, a lot of them are like that. They're human energy. The human energy doesn't die. Play the imprint. Of course, they also lean towards some psychological aspects, like not necessarily mental issues, but like the psychological aspects, like your mind can, can control that human energy and make things happen. Sometimes they think that's how some uh, possessions have happened. So, what would you say when someone encounters a haunt that they feel is more intelligent, like responds to them or something? Do you think that's something that's possible, or do you think that's human energy manipulating that?
So when I worked the ghost tours, the weirdest thing, like, it actually scared the hell out of me. So the jail was owned by a guy called Blythe Simpson. He's a really bad energy, like he was a horrible person, and he does go around that jail. You can feel sort of energy and stuff, but because you're on your own in the jail, at some point I was with my ex. We're just waiting for people to come back. We're just talking, and there's like a walkway, and there's like a table thing, and there's a walking stick on this table. We're just talking. All of a sudden, we have bang, like the bigot. I'm like freaked out. I'm like, what the hell was that? This walking stick had gone 15 foot across the bloody room. I'm like, oh my god. Like, how the hell do you explain that? There's no possible way. So if it's a bad energy, I think they can put like move things and stuff like that, because it's I can't explain that.
It's very difficult to explain. It's like, well, when it comes to like, the energy, people are always worried about bad ghosts, good ghosts. And it's kind of like, I feel like if a person's energy was around, whatever their energy was when they were alive would be that very similar. So I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of ghostly experiences people have are just very mundane. It could just be, oh, we've seen a ghost walking through, or the residual energy, or it knocks something over, which is, pretty much harmless. But then you got what you're talking about, and you got this guy who was not a good person in real life, and you wonder, is it just like his energy within there so powerful that it's propelling things like that stick, or if he's intelligently there, he can't do anything about everybody being there. He doesn't want him there, so it's like throwing stuff across the
Yeah.
room. So that's that seems to be the ongoing debate: intelligent haunts versus residual haunts. And I always find that to be interesting, because it's hard to explain things when you get responses to things you say. And have you ever tried to like actually make contact with the spirit, or been around somebody who has and had any kind of
I
reaction?
mean, we've done sort of the glass thing, but to be honest, this woman was like batty, and I'm like, I'm sure you're pushing this, to be honest.
Yeah.
You could just kind of feel it. I was like, you're pushing it.
Yeah, like the kind of like the Ouija board thing where they have the planchet. Yeah, I keep an open mind. I'm like, I'm not. I do believe there's something. I've seen too many things for me to not believe that there's something. What it is, I don't know. But I do think that there are a lot of charlatans out there,
Yeah.
and people who just want to be noticed, and it's really difficult to I don't know, differentiate, to separate. And the whole thing with the Ouija board stuff, I've always thought, how that's always been my question when they start doing it. It's like, how do you know somebody in that group is not moving the thing around?
Yeah. It's like you could tell when people were just interested in it, and you'd tell the ones that were like, oh my god, and then, like they'd walk in, you're like, here we go, and they'd be like, oh, I sense an energy, it's not letting me in. The person behind just walked straight in. I was like, you're not okay. We're in for a fun night.
I agree. We've done a few we've not done a ton of paranormal investigations, but we've done quite a few. And I remember one of the first we were on, there was a guy who was calling himself an empath, right? And he couldn't go in one of the rooms. He said, I can't go in that room, but that room's really haunted. And I mean, I went in there just fine. My wife went in there just fine. My wife's more empathic about that stuff than I am. I'm better just like reading the room with actual living people than I am picking up on ghost stuff. But it's just kind of like, yeah, I get where someone might be so in tune with that it is difficult for them to approach such things. But then when you got people talking about energy, keeping them out, and other people just going in, I mean, some of it's just like, how do you really tell the difference?
Yeah.
And I don't. It's so difficult. Um, I don't want to just say everybody's a fake. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to just be like, well, this person's lying, because I do believe that if someone can channel that energy, it is possible for them to, maybe if that spirit has any strength, have them moving like the planchette around. But how do you know, right? How do you know this
Yeah,
person?
some of them are a bit too extreme, and you're like, nah, you're full of it. Like they are like in your face extreme, and some others you're like, oh my, okay, maybe.
I feel like I feel like the people who aren't always trying to make themselves be seen are the people who
Yeah,
are probably more realistic.
yeah,
And
100%.
yeah, they don't walk into like we know someone who is really into the paranormal. She knows a lot about it. And she doesn't just walk into a place and say, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I do this." She doesn't say anything. Then
Yeah,
she
they're
just
quiet.
she goes in and observes, and then if she feels comfortable, she might open up to you a little bit. And I feel like people like that are, and my wife's like that too. I feel like people like that are far more genuine.
Yeah, 100%.
So whatever that power is, whatever that ability is, those people have it. I don't know. So some people call it psychic abilities. Have you ever encountered someone who said they were? Obviously, you have. You were just talking about some of those people. Some of the more extreme psychic people versus some of the people you maybe think have been more realistic.
Yeah, it's like I've sent stuff. I don't send stuff all the time. Just the odd thing, and I can't explain it, and I'm very adept at trusting people's energy. So like, I'll meet you. I'll like, this is gonna sound bad. I'll judge you in the first 2 minutes. I'm like something about you I don't like.
Hmm.
It's every time I've been right. It's the energy around them. I'm like, it's off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very much like I'm more like that, like with people. Like someone comes up to me and I have this bad habit. Like my first impressions of people are almost always right. Right. But
Same.
I second guess myself because I want to see the best in people. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm 44 now, and I finally just realized in the last couple of years that I need to stop doing that. If someone gives me bad vibes when I first get, you don't have to be a complete, a hole to them and be like, shove off, but just be really wary and don't let them
Keep
in.
them distant. Like I've learned the very hard way. If you get a bad vibe about someone, do not engage with them.
100%. Yeah, I know. I have too. It's really caused me a lot of problems in life. So I think I think it's better to be able to judge living people than the dead people because the dead people, unless they throw things at you, they're not going to do too much to you. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess I think I wonder too. Like you've talked about, the social anxieties of such, and I've had them too. And I wonder if people who have that aren't necessarily it's not a social anxiety but more of an observation, like you realize you pick up on all the energy around you, and of course it could be overwhelming, but at the same time maybe you're sensing a lot of bad energy. And
quite possibly. Because sometimes when I've done events and that, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, God, I'm tired. Like you've got all that going on, all people's energy, and I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm tired.
yeah, dealing with people, especially if you're an introvert or social anxiety empathic person, it can be draining. I know
Yeah,
I've had jobs where I've had to deal with people all day, and it wore me out a whole lot more than jobs that were more physical and having to go around and do a bunch of stuff. I think I think human energy is just really sapping.
definitely. Like I'm happier when there's less people around. Even I'll go to a gym because it's quite a quiet gym because I don't want to be around people. Like, this is quite antisocial of me, but I don't want too many people around me. It's too much.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that because again, I've never even put forth a 15th of the effort into going to the gym that you have, but I used to try to go to the gym and stay in decent shape just for my own physical well-being. And I didn't like going there when there were people there. I wasn't embarrassed. I didn't care what they thought of it. I just didn't want to be around them. So I was actually going to ask that. How do you cope with having to go to the gym? But I guess you probably wait until it's
I know kind of like the quieter times, so I go at the quieter times.
yeah, it's
'Cause,
probably
like,
easier.
I get judged for how I look, like 100%.
Well,
Even I have done a couple of times in the gym. I've had someone come up again. Why do you want to? why do you want to lift weights like a man? I said, mess around and find out. That's why. Leave me
Yeah,
alone.
that's such a stupid thing. I remember too, like again, going back to when I was a wrestling fan and I really liked Chyna, and people are always like, "Why do you like her?" They're like, "She looks like a man." I'm like, "No, she looks like a woman. She just looks like a badass woman who lifts a lot of weights." Like what are you talking about? Like I bet you wouldn't say it to her face,
I
but
think it upsets people's energy. They get a bit intimidated by women that lift weights. Like, oh, you look like a man because you're intimidated. That's
yeah.
what it is.
So I guess muscles is just what makes someone look like a man.
Yeah.
It's little. I don't know. People. I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent about people's logic, so I'm not going to. But I don't agree with it. So yeah. But I would wonder too. How many times? I imagine that you probably. I imagine you get those assholes. But how about the men who want to come up and feel like they have to compete with you? Have you ever run into guys just like regular looking dudes at the gym who obviously haven't put forth the half of what you have into what you do? Have they ever come up and tried to be like, how much can you lift? I can lift this. Do you ever get that?
All the time. And I'm like, dude, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm not an ego lifter. Like, you do your powerlifting. And I have to explain to them that bodybuilding is about reps. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, how much do you bench? I don't bench because that's the easiest way to tear.
Yeah.
That is the one exercise where people will literally tear like their pec muscles is benching. So I don't do it.
Yeah, I was always afraid, like when I would go to the gym I've never benched. I was always afraid to because I was always afraid I'd hurt something. But I would get like on those curl machines and I would do that. I feel like that was a lot safer. But I mean,
A
that's,
lot cheaper.
yeah, I don't know. I think,
I've seen so many people like bang all these weights on, and I've seen people injure their like literally tear their pec off because they're ego lifting and they can't do it. And I'm like, oh, it's horrific.
I've seen like, I've seen like videos of like dudes trying to, over and then they like blow out the rectum. I'm like, man, that is
Yeah,
not, that is not worth
it's just so unnecessary. It's like,
it.
be proud of yourself.
Yeah, good luck, dude. All the muscles in the world ain't going to put that back together. No, but seriously, that was another thing I was wanting to get into the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting. Like bodybuilders, obviously, they're strong, but it's not the same. It's not always. It's more about how you look, and it's about the competition.
Yeah.
Where powerlifters just want to be just ridiculous, do ridiculous things, which is pretty impressive too. But so
Yeah, so like the bodybuilding, it's more reps, getting the pump into your muscle to build. Whereas powerlifting, they're like 1 rep, I've picked up this heavy weight, I'm done. That's
yeah,
I don't really know too much about powerlifting, but I'm like, you've picked up a heavy weight, congratulations.
yeah, yeah. I don't know anything about it either. I'm not a weakling, but I'm definitely not anywhere near being a power lifter. That's for sure. But no, that's the conversation I've had with people over the years because they try to talk to me about wrestlers because they know I like wrestling. And of course, people who don't like wrestling are like, "Oh, it's stupid, it's fake." They're always like, "Well, those wrestlers, they're not really that tough." And I'm just like, "Well, and that's the conversation I've had is like they talk about someone like I don't know the John Cena. And I'm just kind of like, well, John Cena, isn't he more like a bodybuilder? He's not like a true bodybuilder, but he looks to me like a guy who's more tried to look strong as opposed to someone like Mark Henry who truly is strong.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference there. And has a lot more to do, like you said, like just getting the appearance, right?
Yeah, so there is different categories. So like you've got bikini, which is like the tiny girls. You go up to figure, trained figure, my category, which is physique, and then you have women's bodybuilding. They're huge. So
Yeah.
I suppose again with the men's, I can't remember the categories offhand, but you go from board short, which is like slimmer but toned, up to the big boys. Like depends what you want to compete in. Like when I go all in, I go all in. So I've gone really big.
Yeah.
It just depends what you want, what your goal is, I guess.
So what competitions have you been in so far with the bodybuilding?
So I did 4 competitions last year. So my first competition, I won my category, then I won overall. The second show I did, I came second, and I was against a bodybuilder called Louise Plum, who's been doing it 10 years. She is absolutely phenomenal. And to be honest, it was an honour in my second time competing to stand on stage next to Louise, who got her IFBB Pro card last year. Like, she's phenomenal. She's goals for me. Um, Third show was the British final, so I won my category again, and then I won overall. So I'm now overall champion for 2014. And then I did like a super show, which was like all pros and everything mixed in. I placed second on that. Because again, I was up against someone that had been competing for like 10 years, and again, she was phenomenal.
Well, it's pretty impressive though. You've not been doing it that long, and you've come a long way pretty quick. So
Yeah, it was first year. Like I couldn't have been happier with what I achieved in my first year. Like an
yeah,
overall trophy was insane.
yeah, that's like some good work for a rookie, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna keep up that momentum. You got other shows coming up.
So I'm currently dieting down because I've been put on the team to compete for the UK in Sapri, Italy. So that's the first weekend of July. That's for a Universe title and the Europe title. So to be put on the team to represent the UK is awesome. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
going in for now, and then I'll pick and choose probably 2 or 3 different other shows to do, and then that'll be my season for this year.
cool. Yeah, so you said of course your goal is to get to the Olympia, the Miss Olympia, right? What
Yeah.
what does it take to get to that level?
So to get to Olympia, so I won an IFBB Elite Pro card, which I didn't accept because it's not the one that I want. To get to Olympia, you have to get your NPC IFBB Pro card, which is what I want to do, and then you have to kind of work your way up to a show where you get sort of your amateur invite to Olympia and go up the ladder, so to speak. So it's a lot of work, but I reckon I can get there.
I think you can. You seem like you've done pretty well, so far, and you still probably got a long way ahead of you. So I can see you getting there. I hope you do. And I've heard of IFBB. That's
Yeah, it's like the elite of bodybuilding. IFBB, like that's the association. You have other associations, so like I'm going to Spree with IFBA, which is a very old school bodybuilding in the UK. Um, but yeah, you have like different associations of bodybuilding. So like last year I competed with BPA. It's
there's a
but
lot there's a lot
yeah,
going on there. Well, I mean that's good because that's I imagine you pick up the more you involve yourself with, the more experience and you pick up along the way. So
100%. Like always learning. You're always learning stuff.
so it's that's so the bodybuilding, the cosplay, and the wrestling. So you kind of and this kind of stands apart from the ghost stuff. So it's very interesting. It's a very diverse collection you got going on there of stuff to keep you busy.
Yeah.
So I guess when you're off in the bodybuilding time, what do you do in your off time for during those days?
I don't really have an off day. Like even when I'm on off season, I'm still in the gym and that. So like I spend a lot of my time with my best friend when I'm not in the gym. I've got pets, so they take up my time. Spend time with my mum. That pretty much takes up my time. Like I don't really watch much TV because I like to be moving around all the time.
Yeah, keep them busy. Well, that's I mean that's good. That's the kind of dedication, really, I guess, to get to that elite level that you're striving for. How like what is your routine, your workout routine look like on a daily basis, or like does it change from day to day?
So I set for weightlifting. I'll split body parts. So I do chest and triceps. Then the next day will be back and biceps. Then legs. Then like shoulders, rear delts, all that. Throw in some abs and then legs another day. At the minute, every day I'm doing 40 minutes of cardio after I've weight trained, and then I'll go for a walk.
Yeah. Do you
Then
ever
that's it.
I know a lot of people who lift weights, especially guys. They're like, I don't like doing cardio. But do you prefer cardio? Because doing bodybuilding, you got to. I mean, like, so
It's a necessary evil. I absolutely hate it. But I'll sit there and I'll put wrestling on like Netflix, or we have Netflix, so that's what WWE's on. So I'll sit there, watch
yeah,
that, or films or that. But if I get really bored, because my focus is with cardio, I play this game called Cardio Ping Pong, where I'll go between different machines. So like 10 on the treadmill, 10 on the air bike, back to the treadmill, then on the stepper.
yeah. That's actually a good idea. I remember several years back when I was trying to lose weight, I would just go up on the treadmill and I'd get bored as hell. And I was just doing it to lose weight. I wasn't doing it to doing any kind of like what you're doing. So that's actually a good idea. I thought about that. Like, well,
Cardio Ping Pong. Game changer.
that's actually good. Did you come up with that on your own? That's a good
Yeah.
method. Because I bet a lot of people get bored with cardio. Do you hear that a lot with other people who are
Yeah,
involved?
I don't really know anyone that enjoys cardio. You're just
Yeah.
staring at a wall and walking or biking, and you're just like, oh my god. And you're just counting the minutes.
Yeah. I mean, that's really boring doing it on a machine. Like, it would be better if you could just go out and walk really fast down the road or ride a bike, because at least then you're like, there's scenery, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not just looking at a wall. But
Like, because the weather's not great in the UK, like
well, that's true too.
rains and stuff, so you can't
Yeah.
always go out walking. But it's starting to get nicer now because we're getting close to the summer, so I'm getting out walking a bit more. But in the winter, no, like you don't want to go outside. It's cold. It's miserable.
Yeah, it constantly rains over there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like worse than Florida over here. Like, over here, it's like everybody's like, it rains all the time in Florida, but it's also really warm in Florida a lot, isn't it? Relatively chilly in the UK a lot.
It's yeah, like the summer is fairly warm, but we have like a couple of months of summer and then it gets cool again, which
Yeah,
I don't mind because I don't like the heat. I get hot all the time anyway. So
yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm more of a cold weather person. I mean, I don't want to go wandering around with penguins or anything, but I mean, like,
yeah.
being, I hate hot weather. It was like 70 something degrees out here the other day, and I was like, it's just too hot for get
I spent time in sort of like Oklahoma and Nashville, and I know the heat out there. It's
ugh,
yeah,
Nashville. Well, I mean, we live right here by Tennessee. I mean, we're still a couple hours, but it's basically the same type of weather, and it gets so muggy and so humid out here. I hate it. I hate it. I guess y'all probably don't have a lot of humidity over there, do you?
so when it gets really hot, it's like British weather's just like the summer and it's sticky.
Mm.
It's disgusting. It's not like the heat out there. It's more of
Mm.
a drier heat out there.
Yeah,
Here, it's like it's so close. It's humid. It's sticky. You're miserable. You're grumpy. We don't have aircon. You're in bed dying because it's too hot because the houses retain heat and it goes up.
yeah.
It's horrible.
Man, y'all don't have AC over there?
No, because it's generally always cold, so we don't have like AC, we have like central heating and that's it in the winter. So we've got radiators and stuff. I know you guys have like blow heating.
Oh yeah, we got
Yeah.
we got all that over here. I don't care about that. It was just the air conditioning is what I'm like. I'm
Yeah.
like, if it's cold in the house, I can just put on a blanket if it's that bad, or a coat. But if it's hot, I'm pissed off.
Same. I'm like, it's too warm. I've got a fan and willpower, and I'm just, oh my god, I'm dying.
Do they even have window units over there for y'all if it gets too hot? Like, you could
So
buy.
we've got sort of like a portable aircon unit that we have in the living room. So you have to kind of put a tube out the window that blows the heat out, and it's like a
Oh yeah.
portable. So it's heavy as sin. So there's no way I'm taking that thing upstairs. So like, if it's way too hot, I'm sleeping downstairs in front of that aircon with the window open. I think.
You have to call one of your powerlifting friends to carry that upstairs
Yeah.
for you. But yeah, so all right, so we've covered most everything. Going forward, what other than the road to Olympia, do you got anything else that you're working on? Going towards, or maybe some more cosplay hobbies, or you know.
um, I'll probably do like I've got this aim. I want to do the purple China outfit with the bazooka, so that will be an
Oh
aim
yeah,
for soon because like I'll be slimmer down, so I might get away with it. Um, I'm just so focused on bodybuilding right now. It's like event. I do want to go back to wrestling training again. So that will probably be when I'm off season again, and then I'll really focus on that.
I couldn't imagine being a wrestler. They got banged their backs against that mat over and over I don't see how they do it for so many years.
I've injured myself a couple of times in training because wrestling with people that don't know what they're doing. Like the worst one, I did like a sunset flip, and this guy couldn't take my weight, so instead of rolling with me, he just dropped me on my head, and my whole neck just cracked. For 2 weeks, I couldn't move my neck.
That's awful. That's why they don't. That's why they banned some moves in like WWE. They don't want them doing pile drivers anymore.
Yeah.
If someone can't do it right, then someone's going to get badly hurt. I don't think people understand that's like, well, yeah, it's quote unquote fake, not really fake. It's choreographed, scripted. You plan it out. This is who's going to win. I don't think a lot of people realize how wearing and damaging it is, and how dangerous it can be if you're in there with people who don't have a.
Like if they're unsafe, like you could injure yourself so bad. Even if you land wrong when you bump, like I've hurt my back doing that because I'm an idiot and I landed wrong. It's savage.
And if you don't tuck your head when you get body slammed or whatever,
I've done that before. Bang my head. I'm like, oh, I'm always banging my head anyway. Like just in general, I'll like bang it on a cupboard. Like I'm a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm tired of this. Yeah. No, yeah, and that's the thing. Like those mats, they're not as soft as people. I think it's just wood covered in like canvas, essentially. Yeah,
basically, yeah.
I seen this one NXT episode where this guy named Tommaso Ciampa pulled up the entire ring, like the canvas and everything, and pile drive the guy on the wood or whatever. And I was like,
no.
I was like, wow. Or like when they do it on the floor and all they got's that little mat.
Yeah, or they just go straight onto the concrete or for a table. It's like that must really hurt.
Well, I remember this was a little bit before my time, but because again, kind of like when you was talking about being hyper fixated on something, when I like something, I become hyper fixated on it, even as a younger person. So when I started watching wrestling, I had to watch like wrestling long before I was born, and but it was still within my lifetime, but it was a few years before I started watching. Jake the Snake Roberts and Ricky Steamboat had a match, and Ricky Steamboat wanted him to DDT him out on the floor, and Jake was like, well, no, I don't want to do that, because they didn't even have mats back then, but he did it, and it like knocked Ricky Steamboat silly because he basically hit the concrete, and that's all they did. So, and these guys now they're jumping off cages and doing all kinds of maniac.
Yeah. I think the most craziest stuff was done by Mick Foley, Mankind. Like that's some crazy. How that man's not more injured than he is, I don't know.
I remember when I was a kid, he was Cactus Jack. And I was watching him, and he was one of my favorites just because, he would run off the apron and just jump off on somebody, just land on his side. And I think, that was a pretty big deal back then. People didn't do stuff like that. And when he jumped off the cage, the Hell in the Cell that one year, that guy's nuts.
And then like the southern tacks and the barbed wire, I'm like, oh God, I can't watch. No.
And that's what they use real tacks. It's not like some fake. It's like, and you seen like Triple H, he had a bat one time. I think it was in a match with Cactus Jack when Mick Foley was doing his different characters, and he had a bat with barbed wire on it, and something went wrong, and I guess it hooked Triple H's leg, and you could see the tear.
Yeah, I've seen that yet.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, that's crazy. Now again, I got really into watching all the territory wrestling and the independent wrestling, and watching all that others. There is this one company called Combat Zone Wrestling, and this guy, the guy who ran it, his name was John Zandig, and him and this other guy got on top of a building. Right, they were having a match outside. They got on top of a building and did like some spot where they fell off of it onto a whole bunch of stuff. And I was watching. I was like, how are these dudes not dead? They got up and they walked back to the ring and finished their match. It wasn't very long after that, but I was just like, how do people do that?
Yeah, they've got to be in agony. They just probably don't show it. I don't know. Like I'd be like, ow.
Yeah, they probably go back to the back and cry. So, well, that's the indies, and a lot of people say they shouldn't be doing that stuff. But I'm just like, they want to do it, let them do it.
Yeah, I've seen some mad stuff on the indies. Like I've seen indie wrestling in America because I was there for a little while. I was like, this is mad.
Yeah, they're like throwing each other on glass doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will. Well, I mean, even Jeff Hardy, he's done a lot of stuff that I'm surprised he ain't in. Like all the way he jumps off of ladders and off top cages. I don't see how that guy still walks. He's been doing
No.
it. He's been doing it since the '90s. Like at least Mick Foley had the sense to retire when he was like 33 years old. Like Jeff Hardy's like 50 and he's still doing.
And there's so many wrestlers that are older that are still wrestling now. I'm like, how are you still doing that?
I don't know. I remember when I was a kid, if a wrestler was in his 40s, it was kind of like, well, it's time for him to quit. Now it's like they're like 40. They look like Bobby Lashley, and it's just like they're just like that guy ain't anywhere near to quitting. You know, I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy, but yeah. So we're about out of time, and I want to thank you for stopping in. It's an interesting conversation. Um, so, is there anything else you want to plug before you go? You got a channel or a website?
Just my social media. So like Instagram is Chyna Syndrome _. TikTok is Chyna Syndrome. That's my usual socials that I use.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for stopping in. I know it's late where you're at, so
Yeah, it's nearly 12 a.m. now.
yeah, I know. You told me that you were usually up till about 1 in the morning anyway.
Yeah, I'm a night owl. I'm terrible.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I try, like, I'll set myself to try to start getting up at 7 in the morning or something, and I'll do it for a while, and then I'll just end up staying up again all the way until like 12 or 1. So and it's just
Yeah.
like that's how I am. So I get it. All right. Well, thank you again, and
Thank you for asking me on.
and good luck. And I know you'll make it to Olympia.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
And you. Bye.
Bye.